It's going to be kind of dark in this neck of the woods as I'm talking to you guys because they ain't upgraded their street lights yet. They trying to get around to the street, which is good, at least on the main roads, but, you know, one step at a time is good. But anyways, there was something that somebody, that I'm real fond of just had brought up recently, and they were talking about celebrities. Now, people would think that, and sometimes it is the case, that's why you got to observe people's motives, and don't just conclude everybody within one group. There's a reason why people will bring out certain things, like, for instance, now I was on the more extreme side, going back a handful of years, but as I've been around certain people, I just changed perspective slightly. Not that I've completely gotten away from it. You just have to understand that in every area of life, God has people and the devil has people. And a lot of times, the bad is going to outweigh the good. But that doesn't take away from, God's influence. And even if the numbers may be smaller in some areas, in some senses, and that's not to make us feel outnumbered in any way. Even though the numbers may be smaller, we still have a greater power. You have to understand that the world is under the influence of Satan. That doesn't mean that every single person who has success, who, whatever the case may be, that they're in cahoots with the Illuminati, that they're in Freemasonry, that, that doesn't mean all of that. But to act as if those things don't exist, or to act like, rich and famous is the only way to prove that God is with you, is, they're both wrong. And a judge on the extreme of, placing everybody within the same box, saying, well, all rich people are this or all rich people are that, that's wrong as well. The thing that I've noticed, especially since COVID, and especially also with social media, the more celebrity you have, the more influence you have, it can be good and it can be bad. There are Christians who have been Christian or whatever, and they got influence because they have, they've done this in life, whether it was, there's a few different people I've seen in the military, there's a few different people I've seen do this and that. And so, those are examples of, good influence where and that's not necessarily, like I said, trying to give credibility to certain people. I'm just giving examples. When you live in that lifestyle, but yet you done been so many different places and people know about you, that's a whole different thing than somebody who is a celebrity and, they living for the world and they pushing worldly agendas. The greatest example, as I was saying, was through COVID. And there's been many other ones, as I said, with social media as well. But you've seen all these celebrities, like Juvenile, man. Everybody that grew up in my hood, they know who Juvenile is. But when they use Juvenile, and you got to understand how hot Juvie was at a certain point. When they used Juvenile and took a hood classic, backed that thing up, and said, vax that thing up, I could already see certain things with the agenda, especially anybody who got on band with that. He wasn't the only one. There was a bunch of different people that I noticed involved with that. I've spoken about how The Rock was one of my favorite personalities in wrestling. Um, but I'm trying to remember if it was a tsunami or what was going on. But him and Oprah, as I said, two billionaires, they get on the internet and they start asking people for money. Now, that doesn't mean just because they're a billionaire that they can solve all the world's problems or even that problem. And just also because somebody's net worth is something, that doesn't mean that's what they have. And so, understanding at times, we help those people. But with that being said, when you look at the things that were going on in the world, as I've said, since COVID, they have been using different people to either try to trick people into getting the vaccine or to make people think there's nothing wrong with getting it, including Christian influencers. So not just celebrities, but also Christian influencers. When I would bring certain things out, you had people saying I was a heretic, people saying this and saying that. And I think partly because, as I've said, I think they was afraid to speak against the guy or directly confront him. I don't know what exactly was going on, but I guess because, as I've said, I placed myself on the front lines at the time, that, I was the recipient of a lot of those attacks. Not saying that the main person didn't, but I'm saying because people were seeing me do those things, and people quite possibly had a problem with him, as well as, whatever problems they may have had with me, led to those reactions. And so it's important to understand that the devil will use these celebrities. In the book of Daniel, it talks about how, Nebuchadnezzar got all the musicians, all these different people. What's up, man? How Nebuchadnezzar got everybody with influence. He got the actors. He got everybody to bow down and worship the beast. Now, if you as a common person, think about this. Put everything into perspective. If you as a common person see somebody who is successful and rich do something, your instinct would be to follow that person because this person is successful. They know the way out of certain situations that we all have to endure. So it seems anyways. And so people's natural inclination is to follow these people. The danger of that is some people have sold out. You don't want to say that about everybody. And just because people are well known, that doesn't necessarily make them a celebrity or famous. That's some things I had to figure out. And so, we just got to have a healthy balance on that. As I said, I seen a friend bring that up. And, just so people understand where I'm coming from with it, those are one of the things that I wanted to address. I've learned over the past several years to, kind of scale back my stance, even though, like I said, I have examples, biblical, natural, with COVID. Then you got the example of Daniel and, people bound down to the image of the beast. And so it's important to have all these perspectives in mind and not go to any extreme on either. If you do, you end up following the celebrities into the ditch. If you, try to condemn the celebrities, you could condemn people who have influence, who might be listening to you, but they can take your message and give you a platform or show it to somebody who can platform you. And so it's just important to have a healthy balance with things. Don't overjudge people. And as I've said, if I haven't said anything, if you haven't heard certain things come out of my mouth, don't make assumptions. Peace.